What happens when a hero who swore to protect becomes the one who delivers judgment? The story follows Gangyu, a hero who breaks his vow of non-lethality after a villain kills his team in a fight and his brother in prison. He becomes the executioner at Ruculus Prison, tasked with eliminating the most dangerous criminals with his own hands. A man who's on a mission of revenge.
But before we dive into the video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. It really helps us keep bringing you more content like this. Already subscribed? Alright, let's get into the video!
After an intense battle that left a great trail of destruction, he had finally defeated the enemy. I knew it. You are different from those useless heroes. You are the only one who can kill me, so go ahead and kill me, said Huang, laughing. However, Gangyu ordered him to shut up. I will not be the one to kill you. I promised my team that I would put you in prison so that justice could be served. You will be punished by the law. But it was not an easy decision. After that day, Gangyu began to feel deep regret for making that choice, believing he should have killed him right there. On the news, the reporter stated that the worst villain in history had been captured, tried, and sentenced to death. To prevent him from escaping, they placed a device to suppress his powers. Now he is imprisoned in the 5th basement of the cruel villain's prison, Ruculus, awaiting the day of his execution. The reporter also informed that the heroes who fought alongside Gangyu to defeat Huang had died in the process, and that a joint funeral for the fallen heroes would be held that night. The Equality Group, made up of the most powerful heroes, had Gangyu as the only survivor after the battle against Huang. Gangyu's brother turned off the TV and said he should be resting instead of watching the news. Seo Kang-ho was a correctional officer at Ruculus Prison and one of those responsible for carrying out executions. Gangyu confided in his brother, saying he should have killed Huang with his own hands. His brother interrupted him and reminded him of the promise he had made to his companions. Then a flashback began showing the leader of the Equality Heroes explaining the principles of a hero, highlighting that they must never kill, even when facing terrible villains, because criminals also have the right to a fair trial. Gangyu said it was nice but questioned what would happen if they were killed. Lausa then asked him to promise, in front of everyone, that he would not kill anyone no matter what happened. He agreed even though it made no sense to him. The flashback ended, and Kang-ho said he agreed with this view, affirming that Gangyu had already fulfilled his duty as a hero. He told him that Huang's execution was scheduled for the following week, and asked him to trust the rest of the task to him and the other officers to uphold the law. Now stop lamenting and let's go. Let's say goodbye to your companions together. At the funeral, thousands of people left flowers and messages of gratitude for the heroes who had dedicated their lives to helping others. Outside, a protest demanded justice for the fallen heroes. Kang-ho, standing beside his brother, said goodbye one last time to the companions who had fought bravely alongside him for years. However, his suffering was far from over. A week later, on the day of Huang's execution, Kang-ho found himself attending another funeral. But this time it was his brother's. Crying uncontrollably, he wondered why the criminal who was supposed to be punished was still alive, while innocent lives continued to be lost. Sitting on the ground completely devastated, he received a visit. It was Jo Se-eun, the director of Ruculus Prison, who arrived and asked if he had a minute to talk. She pulled out a tablet with a paused video. Kang-ho asked what it was. She replied that it was from today and showed what happened during Huang's execution. Watch it and you'll understand what happened to your brother. Everything was proceeding normally, and he was being taken to the execution chamber. But he noticed that one of the guards escorting him looked identical to Kang-ho. Then he said, "You look a lot like Kang-ho. Are you his brother?" But he was completely ignored. He continued, saying that Kang-ho didn't seem to have superpowers like his brother, and asked if that was why he became a correctional officer. "Who's older, you or him?" Kang-ho remained silent without responding. Then Huang asked how it felt to kill someone. "What did you say?" Kang-ho asked, confused. "Well, you're a correctional officer responsible for carrying out death sentences. I bet you've killed several people just like me, haven't you? So how does it feel?" Huang asked again. Kang-ho didn't respond. Then Huang said he thought it was very easy. "Very easy?" Kang-ho asked incredulously. "Yes, very easy. After all, with just one touch they burst like soap bubbles." But Kang-ho revealed that for him, it was not easy at all. Even though they were the scum of society, every time he had to execute someone, he fought against a horrible feeling of guilt. And it didn't end after pressing the button. That feeling followed him even when he tried to sleep, giving him chills at night. "The prisoners I execute always come back to haunt me in my dreams. It's horrible," he confessed. "Even so, you keep working here." "Well, someone has to do it. I'm just doing my job as a correctional officer." Everything was ready to start the execution. Kang-ho asked, "What are your last words?" Huang replied, "Who's older, you or your brother?" Then he began the countdown. 3, 2, 1. And just as he was about to press the button, the recording ended. Confused, Kang-ho couldn't understand what had happened until the director explained that, at that exact moment during the execution, there was a power outage at Ruculus Prison. Is it a blackout? One of the guards asked, alarmed. But what about the prisoner? Then they heard a voice. Ahahaha. It was Huang laughing hysterically. First, he destroyed the power suppression device and said, I knew it, only he can kill me. Next, he shattered the glass that separated him from the guards. One of them tried to call for reinforcements but felt a hand on his shoulder. When he turned around, he saw Huang. Huang made him swell and explode from the inside out. He did the same to all the other officers, leaving Kang Ho for last. And he said, You know what I think? I think you're the older brother. Am I right? Furious, Kang Ho grabbed his baton and tried to strike him. But Huang made his arm explode. Kang Ho screamed in pain but didn't stop. Even in excruciating pain, he grabbed the baton with his left hand and said, You deserve to be punished by the law. Justice will be served, you monster. He charged toward Huang but was easily killed, leaving only a mass of flesh shaped like a sphere. Well, I guess I'll have to ask Kang Ho if I got it right, Huang said. Xian explained that these unidentified EMP attacks not only freed Huang but all the inmates. The good news is that they managed to keep everyone inside the prison. The bad news is that the criminals are now without their power suppression devices, and several officers are still inside. He asked who was behind the attacks. The director said they were still investigating and requested a favor from him. Hero Kang Ho, I'm sorry to ask this at your brother's funeral, but could you suppress the rebellion at Ruculus Prison? Kang Ho replied, Yes, but on one condition. My companions and my brother always said that heroes should not kill, only save people, and that only the law can condemn. So allow me to enter as an executor. Inside the prison, chaos reigned. But when the gate started to open, the inmates thought it was the perfect opportunity to escape. However, they were all mistaken. Several inmates were killed in a single attack. Everyone was terrified, wondering how this was possible. Then they saw a mysterious figure appear alone at the entrance that had been opened. He said, Nice to meet you, scum. My name is Kang Ho Seo, your new correctional officer. Some recognized his name. Why is there a hero here? And why is he dressed as an executor? They wondered, puzzled. But they would soon find out. Some criminals decided to take their chances and prepared to attack him, thinking this was the best opportunity they had to escape. After all, he was just one man. So they rushed toward him. However, Kang Ho remained calm and still. When they got close enough, he raised his fist and delivered a punch imbued with his power, obliterating all the criminals in front of him. The remaining inmates were in shock at what they had witnessed. Using the prison's internal audio system, Kang Ho announced, By order of the government, everyone, from the ground floor to the 5th basement, will be executed immediately. The prisoners were outraged and shouted, Execution? What the hell are you talking about? That damn bastard? You're going to kill us? This must be a joke. Kang Ho then asked, What are you talking about? This must be a joke. Kang Ho then asked, Director Xianzhou, I think I'll need to use a bit of force. How sturdy is this prison? She replies, Don't worry, do whatever you want. My prison won't collapse, I guarantee it. Alright, then there's no need to hold back. Hila Song says that Gangyu is bluffing, and that, unlike his former teammates, he's a fraud. I bet you only captured Huang by using your teammates as bait, didn't you? But don't worry, we'll send you to the same place as your friends. He then activates his ability, boosting the determination and physical strength of all the inmates. I'm overflowing with strength, says one of them. Hila Song orders everyone to attack together. However, even with an absurd number of attacks coming his way, Gangyu doesn't appear fearful. On the contrary, he remains calm, waiting for the right moment to retaliate. When they get close enough, with a simple kick infused with his power, he unleashes a wave of death on those within range of his attack. Hila Song is completely shocked. How is it possible for him to kill so many of us with a single attack? But that was only the beginning. Gangyu lifts his leg, focuses some of his energy into his foot and stomps on the ground, sending everyone flying and causing the prison to tremble. The force is so intense that it sends chills down the spine of a prisoner in solitary confinement, who murmurs, It must be Gangyu. Hila Song is utterly terrified. The hero he underestimated was far stronger than he could have ever imagined. But now there was no escape. He would soon be struck by another attack. Gangyu concentrates his power into his hand and activates Mode 1. The inmates try to stop him. But in the blink of an eye, he had already sliced them all in half. Bodies begin to fall, completely lifeless. He then reports to the director that all the inmates on the 1st floor have been executed and proceeds towards solitary confinement. On the way, he wonders how many have already been executed. Dozens? Hundreds? It didn't matter. The work was far from over. Gangyu encounters other prisoners and gives them two choices. Put on the suppression device or die right here. You decide. Angry, one of them rushes toward him. Gangyu activates his ability and delivers a kick straight to the head, completely destroying it. Another prisoner, frightened by the display of power, says he'll put on the suppression device. Then come and take it. The inmate approaches, raises both arms and asks Gangyu to put the device on him. But it was all a bluff. He activates his ability, gathering all his energy into his hands, and releasing it toward Gangyu. Did you really think I'd obey you, idiot? But Gangyu remains standing and scathed. Then he recounts that once Tomo, a hero from Equality, captured a villain who said she pitted those without physical powers, because they'd never understand the adrenaline rush of crushing a skull with their bare hands. But is that supposed to feel euphoric? It feels more like crushing an egg with your fist, he confides. After dealing with the prisoners, he proceeds to the first-floor solitary cell. When he opens the door, he finds a familiar face. I was wondering what all the commotion was about. So it was you, Hero Gangyu. It's been a long time, hasn't it? It was Chiak the cannibal. Do you remember me? Great, so you found yourself another job. Though you don't look too good. Gangyu says, put on your device or die. Make your choice. Chiak removes his mask and says, if I'd known I'd run into you like this. A flashback begins of the day Equality captured him. He was cooking parts of his victims in a pot. Looks tasty, doesn't it? They were just killed and cooked, so it must be delicious. Angry, Gangyu says, you've left me no choice. I'm going to have to kill you. He prepares to throw a punch. His teammates watch until one of them speaks up. Gangyu, please stop. It was Lausa who, despite understanding his anger, begged him not to do it. He then stepped back, furious at not being able to execute a monster like him. Now, back in solitary confinement, Chiak Fildio says he noticed back then that Gangyu didn't seem to agree with his teammate's decision. But Gangyu demands an answer. If you don't respond, I'll assume you've chosen death. Chiak Fildio asks, do you know why I killed those people? Gangyu responds, I'm not interested. In a quick attack, he cuts off Chiak Fildio's head, but it was only an illusion. Chiak Fildio continues, as I was saying, I did it so they would remember me. He reappears behind Gangyu and says, when I kill someone, I become the most memorable person in their life. That is why I use my ability to imprint my memory in their eyes so they will never forget, even in death. I remember everyone I have killed. Should I show you all of them? As he is about to create another illusion, Gangyu strikes again with a fast attack. Before Chiak Fildio realizes it, he has already lost an arm. Writhing in pain, Gangyu asks, is that why you are a prisoner in solitary confinement? Because no one could stand hearing your voice anymore. I really want to silence that mouth of yours once and for all. Before killing him, Gangyu asks, answer me, do you remember the people you have killed so far? Chiak Fildio replies, for me, criminals like you are not worth remembering. Trying to catch Gangyu off guard, Chiak Fildio creates a new illusion, making his former Equality comrades appear. The trick seems to work, as Gangyu is taken aback upon seeing his old friends. Smiling, Chiak Fildio thinks perhaps I will survive after all. But the truth is, such a trick would not work against Gangyu, who charges forward, destroying all the illusions. Is that the end of your cheap tricks? Gangyu asks. Chiak Fildio says he cannot believe Gangyu destroyed his comrades' illusions without hesitation. Of course, Gangyu replies, after all, they were just illusions. He then cuts Chiak Fildio in half using an energy blade created by his ability. Gangyu looks down at him as he is dying and says, I do not know if you noticed, but I am no longer a hero, I am a prison guard. Chiak Fildio says Gangyu is wrong. You are not just a guard, you are nothing but a monster, not so different from Huang. Huang is bored. He tried to entertain himself by fighting the girl imprisoned on the same floor, but she offers no resistance. He wonders how long Gangyu will take and debates whether to wait or to go up. Outside the prison, three mysterious figures are shown observing everything happening inside. One of them is smiling. Her name is Sinka. She looks completely smitten and says, that man, he will be my husband. However, her subordinates appear confused. Heinous questions her, Miss Sinka, didn't you say your husband would be Huang Sung-Huan? Kat adds, exactly, wasn't that why we launched the Peng attack, to save Huang from execution? Besides, he is a barrier to humanity's progress. But Sinka responds that he is mistaken, explaining he was once a hero, though he doesn't seem like one anymore. Heinous insists she must choose only one. Kat agrees, saying yes, that's right, polygamy is illegal. Sinka, however, looks uncertain. Which one should I choose, the younger or the older? This is so hard. Maybe I should pick the one who manages to survive here. I wonder which of them it will be. Meanwhile, inside the prison, the director praises Gangyu. Excellent work, Agent Gangyu. You cleared the first floor in just a few minutes. I suggest you take a moment to rest because as you progress to the other floors, the prisoners will be much stronger. But he responds curtly, no, I'm going down right now. Open the next gate. She acknowledges his determination but asks for a favor before he proceeds. There are still guards alive sending signals from the lower floors. Please help them return safely to their families. Do you know how many there are? Yes. No, she replies. All communication devices are broken, so I don't know the exact number. Except for one. On floor B5, all communication devices are intact. It's as if someone wants us to see what's happening down there. Gangyu acknowledges the situation and says he's ready to go. The guards in the control room confirm they are only waiting for permission. The director gives the order, permission granted. But before the door can fully open, Gangyu is ambushed, struck by a hail of bullets. One attacker grabs the prison director by the neck and sneers, I've always wanted to see your face in panic. Turning back to gloat, the attacker is horrified by what he sees. Everyone else is dead. But how was that possible? When he looks up, he sees the prison guard with a fist radiating dark energy. By then it's too late to escape. The attack was so intense that various parts of his body were seen flying in all directions. Then he spoke, do not descend when they open the next floor. It's not safe here. Before leaving, she warned, the hero killer is in isolation on the first basement level. He replied, I already know. The inmates in solitary confinement, hearing the commotion, assumed their cellmates had managed to escape. Tamaki, the hero killer, called them idiots. Obviously they're all dead. None of those fools had enough strength to cause all that noise. I told them to stay put, but they simply wouldn't listen. Tamaki is a former hero who turned against her peers and killed 28 heroes. She remarked, there's a reason why you all became villains. You don't know how to think. One inmate, irritated by her remarks, threatened to kill her. Really? Do you honestly think you can kill me? You're all here because you killed ordinary citizens. You've probably never even faced anyone with superpowers. That's why you're on this floor. He activated his ability and declared, then I'll kill someone with powers right here and now. Before he could react, she had already cut him in half. That fool actually thought he could kill me. How pathetic. She had activated her ability, transforming her arm into a claw, with dark marks spreading across her body. She explained that during her time as a hero, she had captured countless villains and learned how to fight against people with powers. Using that knowledge, she also managed to kill many heroes. If you join me, I'll teach you how to hunt someone with special abilities. And most importantly, I'll reveal the abilities of the hero Gangyu. The inmates, intrigued, asked how she knew his abilities. She explained that her long career as a hero had given her a solid understanding of most hero abilities. One inmate, however, wasn't convinced. What difference does it make? Our opponent was part of the Equality Group, a group composed solely of first-class heroes. That's very different from a third-class hero like you. Contrary to his expectations, Tamaki wasn't offended. She elaborated, after Lausa became the president of the Hero Association, major reforms were implemented. First, she redefined what it meant to be a hero and forbade heroes from killing villains. Second, she regularly formed teams for joint training among heroes. Finally, the hero classification system, which ranged from 1st to 5th class, was abolished. You may be wondering why I'm telling you this. When Gangyu joined the Equality Group, it was precisely when the classification system was abolished. Everyone was surprised by his exceptional entry into the group, because he didn't have any notable achievements. There were even rumors that he had powerful connections, or that he was Lausa's secret lover. Spit remarked that he had never seen Gangyu fight, but still stated that his strength shouldn't be underestimated, given how quickly he had cleared the first floor alone. At the very least, he must be a second-class hero, or perhaps something even beyond that. Tamaki countered, the first floor only had riffraff. Anyone here could have wiped them out easily. Right, guys? Everyone present had already killed thousands of people. Unlike the criminals on the first floor, who had only killed a few dozen. Spit himself had murdered more than 6,000 people, before finally being captured. Tamaki concluded, I'm not saying Gangyu is weak. He is undoubtedly very strong. But I know his weakness. That's why I'm convinced we can defeat him. Why are you all so tense? Do you have any other choice but to trust me? Decide quickly, he's probably almost here. Everyone agreed, but Spit remained silent. She then asked, are you sure you won't join? Fine, I'll fight you too. What's the plan? Centuries ago, when superpowers began to emerge among humans, Researchers started studying the phenomenon and eventually classified abilities into three main categories: physical abilities, which allow a person to transform or enhance their body; creation abilities, which allow the creation of shields, chains, illusions, and other objects from absolutely nothing; and finally, special abilities, which don't fit into the previous two categories. Tamaki shared that she had seen Gangyu during a training session back when she was a hero. He was facing the training robot HR-12, and it was then she discovered that his ability belonged to the physical category. Moreover, she has the perfect strategy to defeat him. She managed to convince everyone to follow her plan, coordinating from afar. As soon as Gangyu arrives, he begins to be attacked. But his physique is so strong that it's not worth dodging for him. This was part of the plan. So one of the prisoners takes advantage of the attacks to attach 30 power-suppressing devices to him. Everyone celebrates, thinking the plan worked. But Tamaki's strategy has three flaws. The first is that she underestimated Gangyu's strength, and he easily destroyed all the devices. He asks to proceed with Plan B, which was to use hostages, but that was her second mistake. She assumed his ability was only physical, but it was also special, allowing him to easily save the hostages, killing all the prisoners and leaving a pool of shattered bodies and blood in his wake. Her third mistake was assuming she was dealing with a hero. He's an executioner. The prisoner who was helping to coordinate the attack from afar gets frustrated with the plan's failure and starts insulting Tamaki. Out of patience, he kills him. "Who do you think you are to speak to me like that? Do you think we're on the same level just because we're on the same floor?" He says a mediocre criminal like him wouldn't understand. But 30 power suspension devices should have been more than enough to seal the power of any first-class hero. How did he destroy them so easily? Irritated, she tries to attack the guard she was holding hostage. But before she could touch him, her hand is severed. And when she looks back, there he is. Gangyu asks, "What are your last words?" Tamaki asks if it's true that all the heroes of equality, except for him, died during the battle against a villain. He answers, "Yes, it's true. Then Tomo also died. I told her not to become a hero. What a disobedient little sister, she never wanted to listen to me." Gangyu stays silent, just listening. She then says that she doesn't believe he killed people, while still part of equality. Do the other heroes know about this? You more than anyone know how hard Lausa fought to change the hero industry. But you undid everything she worked for. She would be disappointed with what you've become. Gangyu then comments that her last words were too long. And thus, a new flashback begins. There's something wrong with the hero industry, was the first thing Tomo felt when she became a hero. When heroes found themselves in situations with hostages, they felt comfortable sacrificing the life of a citizen in exchange for killing a villain, as they all received legal immunity, which freed them from punishment. But there was a noble reason why Tomo became the hero known as Bliss. She had become a hero for the sake of her younger sister, who had no powers and was completely dependent on her. But Tomo was extremely narcissistic, and when she killed for the first time, she felt an addictive sense of superiority, and from that moment on she never stopped. Villains, citizens, heroes. She killed anyone who crossed her path without discrimination. But the murders she enjoyed the most were those of the weakest heroes. She loved the look of surprise on their faces. They all begged for mercy. But that only drove her even more insane. However, no crime remains unpunished for long. One day Tomo, to understand why her sister always arrived late, smelling of blood, followed her, and ended up witnessing what her older sister had become. Tomo, completely insane, asked if her sister wanted to join her, saying the feeling of killing was so good and she should try it. But Tomo, deeply saddened by what her sister was doing, awoke a hidden power that allowed her to chain her. Tomo managed to escape, but her sister didn't rest until she brought her to justice. And that's how she ended up in prison. And her sister became one of the most powerful heroes. She asks if her sister died without suffering. He says that when he found her, she was crying and calling his name before she died. Tomo regrets asking, feeling guilty for her sister. She then activates her ability, completely transforming her body, and charges at Gangyu, striking his chest, or so she thought. But he had dodged using his ability, and was right behind her, emitting a murderous aura. Tomo tries to turn quickly to attack him, but he kicks her, sending her crashing against the prison wall. A thick smoke forms due to the impact. However, she doesn't give up, and uses the smoke to try to surprise him, but it's futile. He delivers a punch to her stomach, causing her to cough up blood and deactivate her transformation. He says he is saddened by the fact that he'll have to kill the sister, that his teammate loved so much. Tamaki says he doesn't need to do this, and starts begging for her life, saying, "Did you forget what you promised Lausa?" Gangyu replies that he's no longer a hero, and asks what she did when her victims begged for their lives, exposing her hypocrisy, and kills her without any remorse. Gangyu's attacks are so powerful that they echo even outside the prison. But what he couldn't have imagined was that he was accidentally making someone fall even more in love with him. For some unexplained reason, Huang is carrying a mysterious prisoner from the 5th floor, until there's a new tremor, and there's no doubt it's Gangyu. He decides to go up to find him, but is surprised by an attack that throws him against the prison wall. The mysterious figure then says, "Are you bored, boy? Then let Grandpa play with you." Huang scoffs, saying, "Wow, what a scary grandpa." The guards monitoring the 5th floor call the director. She notices they're scared and asks what's happening. They tell her that prisoner 001 just found Huang. She comments that this is good news, since it means one of them is sure to die. She says she's personally rooting for Kingston to win, since he's not as dangerous as Huang Sunghuan. But she wonders, why is he keeping that prisoner in the air? Huang then speaks. "So, you want to play with me, Grandpa?" Kingston replies, "Yes, but I don't want to." Kingston then says, "Don't want to? But I would love to play with you." Then a flashback begins. Kingston was the first criminal to be imprisoned in Ruculus, and he is the longest-serving prisoner. But unlike most prisoners in the 4th and 5th basement levels, who were incarcerated for killing millions of people, Kingston only killed 3 people. His first victim was the most powerful and vile villain of his time, known as Caracas. The other 2 victims were simply the most powerful hero duo of the time, Clark and Hilo. The world was shocked. He simply appeared and killed the 3 people considered the strongest in the world. However, he didn't seem happy. "I killed everyone who was considered invincible. Does that make me the strongest person in the world? How disappointing." His disappointment was so great that he surrendered and allowed the government to capture him. As far as is known, he only killed those 3 people and voluntarily gave himself up. Since the government and the Hero Association didn't get along at the time, these 3 factors allowed his execution to be delayed for 30 years. Huang says he doesn't want to play, but Kingston says, "Don't worry, kid, I'm not going to kill you. We're just going to play a little. I don't stomp on young ones before they've had a chance to grow." Huang decides to give it a chance and agrees to play. He then activates his ability, levitating the bodies of all the prison guards around him, and crushing them into spheres. He throws them toward Kingston. But even though he's old, Kingston still has extremely sharp reflexes. He begins dodging all the spheres with his hands, moving at an incredibly fast pace, destroying them and causing blood to rain down. Huang stays silent as if he's bored. Kingston says he thought Huang was using telekinesis, but something seems different. Huang changes his mind and says it's not fun playing with him. After all, why waste time killing someone who's already going to die from old age? Kingston doesn't like the comment at all, and says he's met many arrogant people like him in the past, and says he'll teach him some manners. Meanwhile, in the monitoring room, one of the guards shouts that the building is collapsing, but Director Cian says he's being dramatic. There are 20 layers of special walls built to withstand any kind of attack. It's impossible to destroy. Kingston then charges toward Huang, and launches an attack so powerful that the entire prison shakes, surprising even Gangyu. The director asks if everyone is alright, who won the fight, but the guard, terrified, brings her bad news. Kingston's attack was so powerful that it destroyed all the layers of the prison walls. The director, completely paralyzed in shock, says we're all screwed. Huang, impressed, comments, "Wow, he's like a living drilling platform. How many walls did he destroy? Interesting, maybe I should follow him." However, he is interrupted by a voice. "Forget about that, old man. You'll have more fun staying here and talking to me." "Who are you?" he asks. She says that he'll know everything after they talk. But before that, she tells him that the spectators can leave, and turns off the surveillance cameras. Irritated, Director C.E.1 wonders, who is that girl? And how did she get to the 5th basement? Gangyu was waiting for the guards to open the gate to the next floor, but communication was failing badly. With a bit of strength, he easily opens the gate, but something seems off. Unlike the other floors, this one was empty, and had a strong smell of blood. No matter where he looked, he couldn't find anything, which didn't make sense. There should have been 30 prisoners, plus the guards, but there were no bodies, until, while searching for survivors, he hears a scream. It's a guard being chased by several creatures. She screams, Stay away from me. And when she sees him, she calls him Sul Kong Ho. He's intrigued. She mentioned his brother's name. Could she be his friend? Kong Ho then uses his abilities to help her, killing the creatures and getting her to safety. He asks if she's alright, but her reaction surprises him. She hugs him, crying, and says, I thought you were in the 5th basement, but what was that just now? You really have superpowers? That's amazing. Why didn't you ever tell me? He pulls her away and clarifies, I'm not Kong Ho. I'm his brother. She's stunned. What? You're Sul Kong Ho, the hero? But why are you wearing a prison guard uniform? What are you doing here? He replies, You must be my brother's colleague. It's not safe here. She apologizes and calls him brother-in-law. He's confused. Brother-in-law? This is the first time we've met, right? I should have introduced myself. Hi, I'll be your sister-in-law. You and your brother really look alike. Kong Ho is speechless. In the isolation cell on floor B2, there are 2 prisoners. One is named Meal, who says there's someone from the outside among them. Meili agrees with him. Surrounded by floating bodies of prisoners with crowns, and mounted on a beastly creature, they wonder how many sins this stranger has committed in his life. She introduces herself, saying she is Hong Dia, a prison guard from Ruculus and his future sister-in-law. Kong Ho says he knew his brother had a girlfriend, but he never mentioned anything about marriage. She then reveals some news. Pointing to her belly, she says, Your nephew or niece is growing here. We just found out recently. Kong Ho was planning to finish the execution of Huang first. Is this all true? He asked. Jia confirms and asks if something is wrong. She didn't know what had happened to Kong Ho, nor about the current situation at the Ruculus Prison. Due to the communication breakdown, she thought it was just a simple riot. Gangyu explains the gravity of the situation, and mentions that he's there to execute Huang's prison sentence. Jia asks if he has news of Kong Ho, who was on the 5th floor when everything happened. Worried about her reaction to the truth, he decides to lie, saying that the 5th basement sent rescue signals. She feels relieved to hear that. He tells her to go up because it's not safe there, but she stubbornly insists on staying to help. Jia reveals that she has the ability of psychometry, which allows her to read the mind of anyone who makes eye contact. She reassures Gangyu, saying that she hasn't used her abilities on him. And how is that going to help me? He asked. Jia starts explaining the situation on the 2nd basement floor. There are 2 prisoners named Meal and Meili, brothers with creation and special powers. They summon several creatures that, when piercing someone's heart, turn them into their puppets. Currently, all the prisoners on floor B2 are their puppets. But Gangju interrupts. I already know about their powers, because they're disciples of the hero wizard, my former teammate from Equality. I don't need this information. Now please go up to the 1st floor. It's safe there. However, she warns that some of the combatant puppets, they control our prison guards. You won't be able to distinguish them from the prisoners, since they've also been turned into puppets. Gangju questions whether it wouldn't be easier to just destroy them all. But Jia explains that the guards are still alive, and will return to normal once freed from the brothers' power. After a long conversation, Gangju realizes Jia won't give up. So he agrees to take her, but with one condition. He uses his power to create a sphere around her, and tells her that she'll have to stay inside it, as it's the only way to ensure her safety and the babies. They then proceed toward the puppets. She says this is the power of the older brother, Meal. He asks which ones are the officials. She activates her ability and says they're the last 2. Gangju then uses his power to make the sphere opaque, preventing her from seeing the massacre he's about to make. Gangju uses his power to immobilize the officials, who are being used as puppets, and says, they'll be spared but the prisoners will be killed. He begins to destroy the puppets. The brothers, who are coordinating the attacks from the solitary on the 2nd floor, are shocked by the level of his power. Meili asks, what do you think? Is he stronger than our master? Or stronger than that woman? Meal answers that he doesn't know. Meili is scared, but her brother reassures her. Don't worry, it won't be easy for him to kill us. Jia gets angry and asks why he locked her up. Gangju apologizes and promises to warn her next time. She asks what's going on, and he explains that he put the quarantine guards in place, and that all the prisoners will be executed. Executed? She asks. But the execution apparatus is on the 5th basement floor. Gangju responds that he doesn't need it, and can do it with his own hands. Wait, you're executing them yourself? She questions whose idea it was and whether the director agreed. He answers that it was his idea. And yes, Director C1 agreed. Irritated, Jia asks, "Is it really okay for you to do this?" Gangyu says he's just doing his duty as a prison guard, and asks if she has a problem with that. She explains that the job of a prison guard is not to kill prisoners but to rehabilitate them. He interrupts, saying he doesn't need that kind of sermon. "I know very well what happens to people with ideals like yours. They're taken down by beasts you can't argue with. Honestly, I don't care if I have to be a hero or a prison guard. I've had enough of it for a long time. Someone needs to put an end to these monsters." She responds, "They are humans?" But that only makes Gangju more furious. "Are you serious? What makes you think they're human? Every criminal from floor B2 is here for killing thousands of people. They all deserve to die." In the past, there was debate about abolishing the death penalty, due to the chance of wrongfully executing an innocent person. But since psychometric abilities have appeared, no one has ever been wrongfully convicted. Gangju argues that everyone has a story, especially Meal and Meili, and that things aren't as simple as they seem. But Jia responds that everyone has a story to tell, even the victims who also have their own history. But Gangju counters, saying that it doesn't matter. They will still end up dead. "If it weren't by my hands, it would be by the execution apparatus from floor B5. Jia insists, "No one should have the power to decide who gets executed." He interrupts, "If you keep talking like that, I'll send you to the first floor." She finally falls silent. The silence endures until they encounter new puppets. But this time they're different, with dark colors and red crowns. Gangju asks which ones are the prison guards. Jia responds that it's the three in the back. When he's about to attack, she says, "Kang Ho will be very sad if he finds out what you've become." This deeply affects him. As he destroys the puppets, he remembers his partner and brother, and all the conversations they had about idealism and pacifism. In the end, they were just words, impossible to apply. At the peak of his anger, he activates the 5 mode, which creates multiple energy spheres, exploding all the puppets in his path, making blood rain down. Sinka, who has been observing everything, comments that he's becoming colder and colder. When Kang Ho is about to face 3 more puppets, something surprises him. With crowns on their heads, they say, "Welcome, stranger." It was Meal and Meili, with a terrifying creature holding the gate open. Kang Ho responds, "I can't believe you're coming to me on your own. That just makes things easier for me. Release the officers from their abilities, and you can leave without feeling any pain." Meal asks if there's really an option where he won't kill them. Kang Ho explains, "On the previous floors I gave the prisoners 2 choices. Use the control device or not. But the monsters who killed countless people are from the 2nd basement floor and below. They have no choice but to die. I heard you're my professor's colleague, and the woman who caught us. You definitely have a different atmosphere from her. You'll surely go to hell. Let's see who goes to hell first." Meal proposes a deal. "If you promise to let us go, we'll free everyone from our abilities." Kang Ho refuses. Jia tries to intervene. "Activate the suppression device, or things are just going to get worse." They refuse. Kang Ho tells Jia that there's no chance this will work. "I won't negotiate with monsters." Meal insists, "I don't want to fight. Please listen to my side of the story." But Kang Ho isn't interested. Jia tries to convince him to resolve things peacefully. He tells her to be quiet and makes the sphere opaque again. He traps the 2 using his power, but realizes it was just another trick. He crushes the prisoners and heads toward the solitary cell, destroying all the puppets in his way. Meal and Noel panic, summoning several creatures to try and stop him, but nothing can hold him back. Noel asks Neil how much time was left to destroy the wall. He replies, 10 minutes. Before she could summon more monsters, something unexpected happens. Kang Ho had destroyed the floor and reached where they were. "This is the end. Disable your abilities and I'll give you a quick and painless death." Kang Ho, undeterred by the sudden appearance of the shield, looks at the figure in front of him with a mixture of surprise and disdain. The Mago, despite being previously killed in the battle against Huang, stands tall, emanating an aura of power and defiance. He speaks with a calm yet commanding tone. "I won't let you execute them, Kang Ho." Kang Ho narrows his eyes, analyzing the situation. "You were supposed to be dead," he mutters, clearly frustrated by the unexpected intervention. The Mago's voice carries an air of authority. "Some deaths aren't as final as you think. I've returned to stop you and I'll protect them at all costs." Meal, still trembling with fear, can barely comprehend what's happening, but Ma Eli, in a mix of disbelief and relief, begins to feel a spark of hope. Kang Ho, now faced with an unexpected obstacle, remains calm, but there's a hint of fury in his eyes. "You shouldn't have come back," he says through clenched teeth. "You have no place here." The Mago's shield begins to glow brightly, signaling that he is prepared to stand his ground whatever the cost. "I've always had a place here, Kang-ho. And today that place is between you and these two." A tense silence falls as the two powerful figures stand against each other, each preparing for the inevitable clash. Kang-ho takes a step forward, the air thick with tension. "Then I guess I'll have to deal with you first." The fight is set. Kang-ho, at a crossroads between his emotional turmoil and his unwavering duty, takes a deep breath, his mind racing. He looks at Jia, his expression hardened. "I understand," he says, his voice cold and resolute. "But we can't just ignore the fact that their past is still tied to this. That magic, that shield, it's not just about protecting them. There's something deeper going on here." Jia gives him a thoughtful look. "Maybe, but no matter what they've gone through or the reasons behind their actions, they are still responsible for the countless lives they've taken. You know what that means?" Kang-ho clenches his fists, feeling the weight of his decision. The memories the Mago left behind, the shield, and now Jia's insistence that justice be served, they all weigh heavily on him. "You're right," he mutters. "But something about all of this feels wrong. I can't shake the feeling that there's more to this story than just execution. I need to know what happened to them. And why." Jia doesn't say anything at first, her gaze steady. "Then you know what you need to do." Kang-ho looks back at the Mago, whose face is still a mask of calm determination. "Fine," Kang-ho says, his voice no longer cold but filled with a deep uncertainty. "But don't think for a second that this means I'll show mercy to them. If they have a story, then let them tell it and I'll decide from there." The Mago nods, understanding the burden Kang-ho carries, and steps aside. "Go ahead," he says with a flicker of sadness in his eyes. "But be prepared. What you find may not change your mind." Kang-ho steps toward Meal and Meili, his mind torn between the past and the present. As he stands before them, Meal, kneeling and trembling, finally speaks. "You're right. We killed. But there was a reason. We didn't want to." "Enough," Kang-ho interrupts, his voice firm but not without a trace of sympathy. "Tell me everything. Now." Meal and Meili exchange a look, the weight of their actions and the consequences of their choices hanging heavy in the air. And as they begin to tell their story, Kang-ho listens, not knowing that the truth of their past might just change the course of everything. The memories that Jia reveals grow even darker as Meal and Meili's story unfolds. The auction scene is one of the first chapters in a life marked by suffering and exploitation. Innocent and defenseless children, sold as commodities, with their special abilities being the only value they had. The man who bought Meal and Meili sees a potential in them that goes beyond their physical or creative abilities. Their true nature, still hidden, is about to be revealed. When the woman says the children have the power to summon both angels and demons, a glimpse of their true strength begins to emerge, something they don't fully comprehend at that moment. The attack on the auction house, and the appearance of the hero mage and his assistant, Lifos, opens a new door for the twins. The mage's intervention, protecting everyone with a green shield, frees them from the desperate situation they were in, and the promise of teaching them magic offers a chance to escape the life they were leading. The lessons on summoning begin, and the mage reveals the secret of his own magic, the ability to visualize and imagine the creations in his mind. Meal and Meili, with their souls marked by images of their parents, begin to summon beings of pure energy, an angel for Meal and a demon for Meili. The mage watches, surprised by what these children are capable of, and sees in them immense potential. But their connection to heaven and hell, concepts so familiar and meaningful in their lives, reveals a greater truth about what drives them. A quest for justice, for a world where the good are rewarded and the bad are punished. The mage, while recognizing the strength of these young ones, seems to glimpse something more in their destiny. He believes they are superior to anyone else, perhaps stronger because of their own pain and experience. The story of the twins is, therefore, not just about power. They aren't simply seeking to improve their abilities. They have a greater mission, perhaps unconscious, to make the world a better place. And this, perhaps, is what truly defines them. However, what becomes clear to Kang-ho upon hearing Meal and Meili's story is that as tragic as their lives may have been, the choices they made now are undeniable. They may have been victims in many ways, but they were also agents of destruction, and this cannot be ignored. The dilemma about executing the twins now weighs even more heavily on him. One day, Lifos brings a message from the Hero Association, asking for the mage's help. He is confused, wondering why the association is now reaching out when they had ignored his ideas in the past. They inform him that Eswed has appeared near Finland. The mage is alarmed, thinking that they should have immediately sent the equality group. He questions their decision-making, frustrated by their lack of action. The mage then asks Lifos to call Meal and Meili. When they approach, Meili hugs him, begging him to stay, while Meal asks when he will return. The mage answers that, given the enemy they will face, it will take several years before he returns. Meal and Meili ask if they can join him, but he insists that it's far too dangerous for them. Noli, wanting to avoid being discarded again, pleads to go along, but Lifos reassures her that she is not an object to be discarded. Before leaving, the mage casts a spell on the twins, marking their abilities in their clothing as a gift and tells them to go to the shelter, where they will be well taken care of. He assures them that there will come a time when they will meet again and that they should grow strong in the meantime. However, after bidding farewell to their master, the twins do not go to the shelter. Perhaps due to fear of getting close to someone again, they choose instead to remain isolated in a remote area, where they begin to grow stronger. As time passes, they start to question what they need to do to become strong enough to reunite with their master. What is good and what is bad? What should they do with their abilities? Over the course of 2 years, Meal and Meili develop their own understanding of good and evil. They return to their hometown and begin to build the utopia they envisioned. Using their invocations, they monitor the entire population for a month, categorizing people into those who will go to heaven and those who will go to hell, based on the simple and childlike ideals they learned from their mother, things like not stealing, not littering, avoiding loud behavior in public, not lying, and so on. Their standards, though simple, are terrifyingly rigid. After all, who hasn't lied at some point? Meal corners a mother and her child, reassuring them not to fear, explaining that he's been watching and knows she has lived a kind life. She begs for them to leave her and her child alone, but Meal replies that she needn't worry as she won't die. He makes a creature pierce her with its arm and says, "You will simply have a happy dream for all eternity." News of the twins' actions spreads quickly, reaching the ears of the Hero Association. Torite, the president of the association, is preparing to begin a meeting when he notices several empty chairs. He asks where everyone is, and Saya Banjo, a third-class heroine, responds that the others are on vacation or something like that. Kusta, another third-class hero, comments that they should get to the point, as most of the cases they have are easy and wouldn't help them rise in class. Torite mentions a level 3 case and asks if they are interested. Saya refuses, as level 3 cases often involve criminals who are difficult to catch, wasting too much time. However, she becomes intrigued when one of the cases concerning a village catches her eye. Torite reveals that the children involved have already been categorized as B1 level villains. They are all surprised that 2 children have already been categorized as such and ask how old they are. The president responds that they are about 10 years old. Kusta comments, saying that they are very young, probably not even in puberty yet, but they have already taken control of an entire village. He speculates that when they grow up, they will likely be at level B2 or even B3. He questions whether they should just wait for them to grow. The president reassures them, saying it will take 5 years or more for that to happen. They agree, but Torite adds that there's an interesting fact about these children. They are apprentices of the hero mage. Saya suggests asking the mage to deal with the mess, but Kusta tells her that the hero mage is occupied in Finland dealing with the villainess Swad. Saya then suggests that they just wait until he finishes. Suddenly, a mysterious figure, who has not spoken until now, raises her finger and everyone looks in her direction. Her name is Keitu, a third-class heroine with summoning abilities. She asks for permission to go there, and Torite sends her to handle the situation. Upon arriving, Keitu is shocked by what she sees. There are red and yellow halos floating over the city. "What a beautiful sight," she comments. Meanwhile, Meal and Meili are watching the scene through a crystal ball, observing the intruder closely and trying to discern her intentions. As Keitu enters the city, she encounters the twins' puppets. While taking a selfie, she wonders if there's a special type of power at play, if they've been brainwashed or if they're just sleeping. She comments that they don't seem dead but questions what this could be. However, just as she's about to take another photo, Meal and Meili transform the puppets into their own bodies and ask the intruder what she wants. Keitu is impressed and remarks that those with special powers are incredible. She asks what else they can do. Meal asks her to answer their question, but Keitu, curious, asks if the mage knows that they are categorized as having special abilities, since as far as she knows, he only accepts apprentices who are summoners. "You've deceived him, haven't you?" Meal, intrigued, asks, "Who are you really?" She introduces herself, "My name is Keitu and I'm your senior." Meili responds, "The only senior we have is Lifos." Keitu then asks, "The mage didn't tell you about me?" She proceeds to tell a brief story. I really like sharp things. The mage told me that if I wanted to train in attack magic, I would also need to learn defensive magic. But defensive magic wasn't my strong suit, so I didn't listen to him. After that, he slowly stopped paying attention to me. He abandoned me. He's so cruel. The mood becomes tense as Keita begins shouting, yes, he's so cruel. Meili, seeing her become unhinged, tells her brother that she is scary. Keita continues, he said I was talented in magic and always smiled and praised me, but then he abandoned me. He's so cruel. Frightened by her behavior, Meil asks her to leave, but Keita has other plans. She summons several sharp objects and starts attacking. Meil yells at her to stop, but it's no use. Keita begins killing everyone under the influence of their abilities, hoping this will make the hero mage remember her again. As she kills, she laughs maniacally, finding the act thrilling. Meil and Meili manage to return to their bodies safely, and upon looking into the crystal ball, they realize that the utopia they had been building is being completely destroyed by this madwoman. With every person she kills, the sensation becomes more addictive to her. She jumps among the bodies, overjoyed, saying she never imagined it would feel this good and that she needs more. Just as she's about to kill another person, Meil and Meili appear and activate a shield to protect the individual. Keita is impressed. Wow, defensive magic. You did a good job learning from the professor. This magic is pretty strong, but your attacks still need a lot of work. Meili screams furiously, you're definitely going to hell. She tells Lausa to show more respect since she's their senior. Lausa then explains that she always wanted to use her abilities in places full of people but couldn't do so because even as a heroine, she'd definitely be arrested. She says that she never got the chance to fulfill this dream. However, now the situation is perfect, and she thanks Meil and Meili for giving her the opportunity to realize this wish, since all the blame for what happens will fall on them. She then raises her hands to the sky and says, I guess I can summon it. They stand frozen, unsure of what to expect from this crazy woman. Then she screams and a massive dagger appears in the sky. Bloodied but satisfied, she declares that she succeeded. The power of imagination is the most important thing for a summoner. The experience and feelings she had after killing numerous people had helped summon an even greater power, improving her ability. She says she's never been able to summon something this big before. So big, so cool, all thanks to you too. Just as she says goodbye and is about to launch the massive dagger at them, something devours her, leaving only her arm behind. Meil is shocked and Meili has the same experience. She sees Keita as a terrifying demon, and her own ability also grows stronger. Fearful, she turns to her brother and asks, did I just kill someone? However, Meil quickly reassures her, what you killed wasn't human, it was a demon. A year later, Meil and Meili have created an even larger utopia, expanding their domain, now being recorded as a new case at the Hero Association. They are now categorized as level B2 villains. The mage, upon discovering this, is incredulous. The president mentions that he's heard they were his disciples. The mage asks what happened to them, and the president responds that it's a question he should ask himself. He then says he needs to go there now, but Taraiti tells him that he isn't authorized to go. This case won't be assigned to you, he says. The mage asks why, and the president replies that he had specifically asked the mage to kill Aswad, but instead the mage captured him and handed him over to the government. There's no reason for me to let you do whatever you want, he adds. The mage, furious, says there's no point in talking to him anymore and prepares to leave. Taraiti, however, isn't going to let his authority be disrespected so easily. He uses his power on the table, attempting to intimidate the mage. But the mage doubles down, telling him to shut up and calling him a lunatic obsessed with power. In the midst of this imminent confrontation, a calm voice interrupts. Instead, I'll go, says Lausa, the third-class heroine. The president is pleased with the idea and gives her permission to go. But the mage, unsatisfied, says that he already said he's going there himself. Lausa approaches him and says, Mage, you can trust me. I won't hurt them. I promise I'll bring them back safely. Now in the city, inside one of the buildings, Meil looks into the crystal ball and says that they have visitors. So, how many sins has the outsider who came this time committed so far? He asks. Upon arriving in the city, Lausa comes across 3 floating bodies with crowns on their heads. Upon closer inspection, there's no doubt. They were heroes who had accepted the mission before her but had failed to stop Meil and Meili. She recognizes 2 of them from the Hero Association's meeting. Kusta and Sayabanjo, both third-class heroes. She comments, at least they're still alive. Meil and Meili appear and ask who she is and why she's here. Lausa introduces herself as a heroine named Lausa and says she's there to bring them back. The fact that she's a heroine irritates them, as they're already tired of dealing with heroes. Without wasting any time, Meili summons several demonic creatures and says, "If you don't leave, you'll be sent to hell." Lausa calmly replies that it's fine, she'll leave, but in exchange, she asks that they accompany her. "Let's go back together." The creatures begin to combust and disintegrate, which scares them. What kind of ability is that, they wonder. Lausa explains that they have kind hearts and that she never felt any murderous intent in their attacks. Lausa, still approaching Meil and Meili, expresses her disappointment that they had bad experiences with heroes. She says that if the people who came to them were truly good heroes, the situation wouldn't have gotten so bad. She then comments, "It's strange, isn't it? You think what you're doing is right, but so many people are coming to disrupt your plans." Meil asks her not to come closer, but Lausa reassures him, saying she won't hurt them. However, she repeats that what they're doing is wrong. "Your professor is really disappointed, you know?" Meili, curious, asks, "Has the master really returned?" Meil, more skeptical, tells his sister not to believe these lies so easily. Lausa then extends her hand and says, "I'm not lying. Release your abilities and come with me. It's time for us to find the hero mage." Meil and Meili, feeling a warm and incomprehensible sensation coming from Lausa, decide to trust her. On their way back, Lausa encounters someone and says, "I knew you would follow me." It was the hero mage. Meil and Meili rush to hug him, excitedly telling him they do have special type abilities and never told anyone because their mother asked them to keep it a secret. They apologize for lying. The mage, surprised, asks, "I only accept summoners as apprentices? Who told you that?" Meil explains that a heroine named Kate claimed to be his apprentice and told them that, but the mage reveals that he never had another apprentice besides them in Lifos. "I met her once at the association and gave her some advice." The mage then decides to talk with them to understand what happened during the 3 years he was away. Meil and Meili share how they worked hard to grow as good children and how others didn't understand their efforts to make the world a better place. The mage, thoughtful, looks at the children sleeping. Lausa asks if he's done talking, and the mage asks if he can leave the children under her care. Lausa responds that, although they didn't kill anyone in the village, they still held thousands of people hostage and killed a hero. It would be hard for them to avoid the death penalty in court. The mage argues that they simply strayed from the right path because they were young and have already released their abilities. "If you trust them, I'll help them understand what they did wrong." Lausa, however, responds that unfortunately she can't do that. "You yourself said they're just children." She then explains that she doesn't agree with the situation, but the law changed by the president of the Hero Association allows the execution of children under age. Even though we don't agree, the law is the law and must be obeyed. Besides, a hero's job isn't to rehabilitate criminals. The mage seems unconvinced and Lausa adds, "I know how you feel. The world has many problems, but would you be willing to work with me from now on?" "But what does that have to do with the two of them?" he asks. Lausa then reveals, "I want to change this world." Impacted by what she says, the mage sets a condition: don't let Meil and Meili die until they become adults. He asks permission to use his ability on them. She agrees. Thus, the mage's ability will protect them from any danger until they reach adulthood. Before they reach adulthood, they will have changed the world. Finally, the flashback ends and we return to the present day. Gangyu is deep in thought, and Dia tries to speak with him but he doesn't respond. It is then revealed what Gangyu was thinking. He was with his brother, and a third person remarked that she had heard a lot about him and dared to ask, "Will you change the world with me?" Gangyu, still silent, stands up and looks toward Meil and Meili. Meil, fearing that this silence means he won't spare them, begins to justify their actions. "We just judge people based on our rules. Aren't laws just rules made by the people of this world? What's the difference between you and us?" Gia tries to help, saying that she and her brother have been assigned to the intensive rehabilitation of these two children. "I'm not saying they did nothing wrong, just that they need to first understand the mistake they made." Gangyu, while observing through the sphere, starts walking toward Meil and Meili, with power emanating from his hand. The silence from Gangyu only intensifies their fear. Meil and Meili start pleading for their lives, admitting their mistakes, but Gangyu remains cold and prepares to strike. They scream, calling for their mother, for their master, as the mage's protective ability starts to fade. The ground trembles as Gangyu's punch lands, but to the surprise of those who thought he would spare them, it only strikes the ground, leaving Meil and Meili unharmed. Despite the strike, the decision isn't easy for Gangyu. He's torn, struggling with a deep internal conflict that's affecting his mental state. However, something unexpected happens. A mysterious ability activates, and Meal and Meili are suddenly sliced into pieces. From a purple portal, Sinka emerges, dressed as a bride, holding a bouquet and ready to marry. She casually remarks, "Why do you need to think so much? Overthinking is only harming you." She adds, "You look much more handsome in person." To completely shatter his sanity, Sinka greets him, "Hello, my husband."
If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, it really helps. And for more content like this, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any updates. Let me know in the comments if you'd like to see another part. I'd love to hear your thoughts. See you next time. Bye-bye.